How's it going, everybody? This is Sean here, and in today's video, I wanted to help make you aware of the so-called fact checkers that are basically all over our social media feeds and aggregated by big media companies and big tech giants, which are laying claims that specific information is fact. For one thing, we're going to cover in this video, we're going to look at something that they've disclaimed on a feed, and we're going to research that a little bit. But I just wanted to let you guys know this is in reference to my book Fact Check. And I just want to give you guys some tidbits of information to help you learn how to discover the facts for yourself and to kind of get the wheels turning on your own, because we shouldn't really have to rely on other companies, especially when we don't know their motives, their agendas, whether they're biased or not biased, and what facts they're providing, because we don't know if their facts are untruth. We don't know how to validate those facts in all cases, and we don't know if the people providing those facts can be trusted with those facts. There's a lot of different variables, and this information is coming in, and we're just supposed to blindly take their word because they put a little fact-checking label over some information that it's false because they said so. And this is very dangerous because you basically, surrendering your own objective will to these people who just can claim that anything they want is fake at will. Now, like Facebook, for instance, we're going to go over a Facebook post today that they blocked out, and we're going to discuss it. They basically pull from like 50, if not more, different so-called fact checkers. Now, each of these fact checkers are the places where they obtain their information to claim whether a piece of information on their network is false or not. So in that sense, they're taking sides with whoever these fact checkers are. And again, we don't know what these fact checkers' agenda is, whether there's any bias. And in this day and age, we know, and it's been proven time and time again through these media companies, that there is a lot of bias due to the state of politics and bipartisan information that's been circulating in the past few years. Other than that fact, we're going to go ahead and look at this real quick. Let's go ahead and get into it. So you can see here, this is a article that was posted from naturalnews.com, and let's look at the title here real quick. It says climate change hoax collapses as new science finds human activity has virtually zero impact on global temperatures. All right, now why would Facebook call this a piece of information false? Well, we're going to get into that. Let's look at the title for a minute. It says climate change hoax collapses. So there is a statement that has bias into climate change in the argument that it's not real. So therefore, we have said argument in the title. But it also, if we remove that, it says new science finds human activity has virtually zero impact on temperatures. Okay, well, in order for this specific article to be deemed false, then the information provided in this article, has to be argued with fact, research, and validity to be false. So that means this article would have to not prove any facts, any scientific research, anything that could base the claim that they are making. If they couldn't meet any of that criteria, then yes, this would be a false article. If it's just a bunch of speculation or hearsay, or a bunch of egregious between different perspectives or concepts, and that is something that would easily be false. But we're going to actually look at it, and then we're going to look at the format that Facebook actually uses by putting on this little cute little fact check label down here to mislead people to thinking that the information that they're providing is actually accurate, while other information is actually false. So first of all, let's go ahead and let's look at this article here. So this is the Natural News article, and it says here, climate change hoax collapses as new science finds human activity has virtually zero impact on global temperatures. All right, so if they have some new science, they should be able to show it in this article and discuss it through their thesis or their argument within this article. So we can read here, and I'll leave the links for this so you can go read it yourself. And it says here that there's a paper called No Experimental Evidence for Significant Anthropological Climate Change. And it goes on and says that the paper explains that the IPCC analysis global temperature suffers from glaring error, and discuss what the paper talks about in relevance. So therefore, if we go here, and I already have it open, there's a scientific paper written by accredited scientists in the field. And if we scroll to the bottom down here, we can see that they have all their references, their validations, their peer reviews, and we can see that they have all the information that they pulled from listed right here. The IPCC, if you didn't know, is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change of the United Nations. It's a major group. So there's information within this scientific study pulled from this data source. So just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and go back here for just a minute, because Facebook partners is basing that this article is fake. They said it's false. It says right here, false information checked by independent fact checkers. Okay. So let's look at what these claims are. So we have two articles here. One from this hoaxalert.lead stories, other one from climatefeedback. So we're gonna have to get a little background on these. So first of all, hoaxalert.leadstories.com. Well, this is just basically a website that takes information from other fact checkers, kind of like Facebook does, and it just lists all the facts that it finds from its network, so-called fact checkers. We don't know if there's any bias. We don't know if there's any validity to the people that are checking these facts. We don't know how these facts came into be, or whether we can trust these facts because we don't know the sources. They try to speculate these sources, and they claim that different scientists wrote this stuff, but they've pulled this information from the other article down here, which is climatefeedback.org, which is a climate change fact-checking website, which is specific to fact-checking climate change information, controlling the flow of information about climate change. Now, that's one thing I wanted to discuss with you, is because when we see information like this, people are, oh wow, it's false. I guess I better not, put any due diligence into observing this article because it's apparently fake because they said it was. That's not the case that you're going to find out here in just a minute. And the point of this entire video is for you to take it upon yourself to understand that not everything they say is false is going to be false. Other than that, you shouldn't be just blatantly relying on other people to tell you whether something is false or true. You should be able to take it upon yourself to determine these facts on your own, and companies like this shouldn't be interfering with that. With this article right here, which so far seems to have sound scientific articles with it and strong thesis that supports their argument in their article that says new science finds human activity has virtually zero impact on global temperatures. Well, this would intrigue me to want to read it, and I'm perfectly capable of making up my own mind about what I read. I can determine the science for myself. I can read the facts, and I can see if this holds water and holds truth. I don't need somebody else to tell me whether I think it is fake or not. With that being said, we got to look at a few other things, though. Maybe they're right. Maybe the information coming from climatefeedback.org is correct. Maybe that this information that they're providing on this page is false. But in retrospect, let's look at it. They're saying that they're providing new science that proves there's zero impact for global temperatures due to human beings, right? So they're providing that here. So this article in itself, the one in question that we're talking about here on Facebook, so far is not false. It is not based in fact. Maybe their science is arguably wrong. Maybe there's an argument there to be had, but that's not the thing that's false. They're saying that this article in question is false, even though it supplies scientific fact. And that's where we got to come into question. When something says that something that is based in science or fact is false, then we got to look into it a little bit deeper, because something's not right about that. And this is a control of information. We don't know the bias. We know that climate change is a big multinational deal right now, and that most every organization is involved, discussing climate change and pushing, these agendas for climate change. And we definitely know Facebook has a hand in that as well. But they're telling us that the information that we read that can oppose that information is fake, and that creates a bias. Facebook is choosing a side on what it wants to believe and saying that we should believe that too. And again, they're only suggesting that this is false information. It doesn't say you better believe this or not. So, but a lot of people see it as false information and don't take it any further to validate that. And that's my point here. You can't be misled. You got to beware that these fact checkers, just because they put a shiny little fact check bubble up here in your feed, doesn't mean it's based in fact. So let's go ahead and look on. So this guy right here, he's pulling information from the second article down here, climatefeedback.org. So this is just a repeat of what the real information is. So I'm going to close that out. That's all that is. It's just repeated, regurgitated information from this page right here. Now, this is the climatefeedback.org page that disputes the information on this page. Again, it's an argument between science, and it's an argument between this one specific article on this page. Now, if we keep reading down this page, more scientific articles that it doesn't discuss. The intensified East Asian winter monsoons during last geomagnetic reversal transition. And then it talks about that. Carbon dioxide, CO2 from the IPCC, which is a renowned United Nations Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. And this is the sources of data that this article is pulling from. So this is sound data. This is validated sound data. And there's several more sources down here, plus there's citations, there's a video, and there's a lot more research. Plus they lead you to see that there's more research papers from these authors at researchgate.net, which is a publication for peer review, climate.news. And so there's a lot of valid information on this page. There's no reason that Facebook should say that this information is false because they are claiming that there's new science and they've proved that. And maybe the argument of what that science proves is a debatable argument, but that's not what's in question here. The question is, why are they saying this article from naturalnews.com is fake when they've supported fact, scientific research, citations, and valid thesis? Well, there is no reason except for that Facebook has chosen a side. Now, if we want to take it a little deeper, let's go ahead and let's validate whether this science that they're saying is fake is really fake. So we go here. Actually, let's go back here because we're going to see what their reasons are for saying that the science provided in the article that provided the science, which isn't fake because they provided facts and they provided a source, is flawed. So they said it's flawed reasoning. Author's argument claims a correlation between cloud cover, relative humidity, and global temperature. Proves that former caused the later without investigating whether they have relationships or that have the relationship backwards. So they're basically saying, how do we know the cloud coverage isn't caused from humans or the humans didn't cause the cloud? Inadequate support. The source of their claim, global cloud data set, is not given. And no research on their proposed mechanism for climate change is cited. Fails to provide correct physical explanation. The manuscript incorrectly claims that the rise of the atmospheric carbon dioxide is caused by the release from ocean waters. This also provides no explanation for the claim that increases in relative humidity causes global cooling. Then it says the key takeaway warning related to human activities is estimated to be around 1 degree Celsius. The past century, the document claims to overturn decades of scientific findings, but proves neither the source of the data uses nor the physics responsible for the relationship to clouds and global temperature. All right, it's a lot to take in, so let me break this down for you. First of all, the reasoning is not flawed. If we go here, they list the sound thesis. All right, we can just read their abstract. It says in this paper, we will prove that the GCM models used in the IPCC report AR5 fail to calculate the influences of lower cloud cover changes on global temperatures. So what they're saying in this article is that their argument is that the cloud coverage just hasn't been taken into consideration. All right, that is what they are saying. If we go back to this so-called climate feedback fact checking, they say that it doesn't support any data set, that the data set is not provided. Well, it is provided. We can see right here that the data sets they're using are from the IPCC report, which is a global United Nations panel for climate change. And this is where they are pulling their data from to do these calculations and run these models. This is exactly where they've got this information from. So we go down here, we can see that they discuss the cloud coverage, discuss the surface of the earth, and their entire premise for their thesis is trying to take this into account. Here they say that is why those models give very small natural temperature change, leaving a very large change for the contribution of greenhouse gas in the observed temperature. They're not dismissing greenhouse gases. This is the reason why the IPCC or the IPCC has to use very large sensitivity to compensate to a small natural component, being us humans. Further, they have to leave out strong negative feedback due to the clouds in order to magnify the sensitivity. In addition, this paper proves that the changes in the low cloud cover fraction practically control the global temperature. So we'd have to read this whole scientific paper to understand. But when we have a company who claims to be a fact checking just for climate change, like they only fact check climate change stuff, and they have all these people here who are the so-called reviewers. We don't know, just because they say he's a professor or an assistant professor, we don't know if they have bias. We don't know what their intent is, what their agenda, if they're getting paid by major networks, if they're getting paid by climate feedback, if there's some other corporations involved. We don't know their intent. We don't know their validity. Why should we blindly trust these people? That's the question you need to be asking yourself. Why should you blindly trust these people? Or why should you blindly trust naturalnews.com? But just supplying information to argue the other side of it, it provides you information for you to make an informed decision on. And when people like Facebook, companies like Facebook, tell you that it's false and try to get people not to take part in the other side of that argument, that's choosing sides. That is a bias. See where I'm going with that? Because you have a right to look at that information and decide for yourself what you think is right. And that's what really matters here. And that's the fundamental premise of why I'm showing you this. But either way, there's plenty of citations. They have sound science. We can look here to who these scientists are, because we go down here, says claims are based on a chain of reasoning with multiple flaws. Claim that the climate models cannot be relied upon, but do not demonstrate. They instead make a new climate model, despite being a contradiction. The new climate model is validated based upon data sets of cloud and humidity without any sources given, and which are not up to date. Well, if they weren't given, how do you know they're up to date? They provide no assessment of accuracy of the data used of these variables that are very difficult to measure on a global basis. Time period, no physical basis given. Climate processes given for how higher relative humidity, blah blah blah. So we've seen where they got their climate models from. Okay, got them from the IPCC, which has data. They're also claiming that this information here wasn't subject to peer review. We can see here one of the other reviewers here. They infer meaning well beyond the scope of their data. Do not explain where the data has come from. So that repeats again. They explicitly state the outset that they do not consider the models as evidence. Even this application, authors neglect to include any time variation with their equations. It gives one reference to research by other scientists. That's not true. And then, I'm looking for the part where it says peer review, because they said that there was no peer review either. Climate model comparisons show opposite of what the Tapia and Milano claim. They're assumed warnings of effects. Say the clouds are humidity. Where is that? I think it's up here. Anyways, they're basically saying that the information that they got from the IPCC report states that the warning caused low cloud cover, and a lighting example to highlight this kind of error is a correlation between the number of storks and birth rate in Europe. Like, I don't even know what that means. Here he goes. He says, from a logical perspective, where he's discrediting them through that state. This effort makes two utterly unjustified assumptions: that any change in low cloud cover are natural rather than human induced. Research discipline of aerosol cloud interactions exists to explore this relationship, and charlatans selling cloud seeding would argue vigorously against all cloud changes being natural. Then he says the correlation equals causality. Just because two time series show a strong correlation does not mean that one cause the other. In fact, no idea of why the authors think reducing cloud cover drives warming rather than the other way around. Probably because cloud covering creates cold on the planet's surface. But I'm not a scientist, right? Anyways, the IPCC report, he said, states the warning cause cloud. And you go on reading this stuff, and they're basically, just trying to discontinue it, saying that the data that they have is relevant, that their opinions don't match what they've already discovered, and that, these guys are a bunch of crackpots. They're trying to discredit them, even though these people here are researchers or research assistants, assistant professors, while in fact we have Jukri Kapin and Pika Manning, who have published this through peer reviews on Cornell University, which they claim that there's no peer reviews. They have a bunch of different publications here. So as you can see, these are legitimate researchers. These are legitimate physicists. These are scientists. And they've done a study, and they've done it correctly. And it's being disregarded because it doesn't fit the narrative that these people want it to fit. This is something that you got to take into consideration, but maybe they are right still. Maybe we got to read through this information and validate their claims and cross-reference what this article means. But this is only in reference to this piece of research, all right? Because the article here that's in question, that is being claimed to be false, has more citations, more scientific claims. So we can see here, this further supported research at Kobe University in Japan, who published a nearly stimulus paper that reveals how changes in our planet's magnetic field govern the intensity of solar radiation that reaches the lower hemisphere, causing cloud formation that alters global temperatures. And here's a study not even mentioned in this climatefeedback.org claim review. And here we got another scientific paper with no arguments that's provided. So my point being is we got to look at all the information. We got to look at the angles. We also got to look at some other information here. Let's see when this was published. Published July 12th, 2019. Okay, so when was this climatefeedback.org article published? Well, they don't tell you up top here. And they say that this was published on the 11th of July. Go down here to the very bottom page. July 12th. Wow. So it's kind of amazing how you can pull, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 supposable professors and research assistants and scientific minds together in the same day that an article is published to dispute it and dispute its facts. This is what is so hairy and creepy about this fact checking which goes on online. We got a lot of people who we don't know their intent, we don't know if they're biased, we don't know their qualifications or validation, and we shouldn't just take for face value because there's the word professor, research assistant, or scientist near their name, that's what they are. We'd actually have to do some research into these people. We'd have to see what their work is. We might find through their work that they're completely biased, that they are hung up on the idea of climate change, and they, argue it to the death because that's what they believe. So any other, conflicting information that would dispute that or argue that point, like this article does, would be completely dismissed, which that compares to bias. And that's what you need to understand. This article Facebook put out as false information should not be false. It should be true because they provide facts, they provide scientific research, they supply a sound thesis, and it's not up to Facebook to decide whether I want to invest my time researching this and believe whether I think it is true or not, based on weighing the evidence. And that's what's important here to understand. Citations are taken from this. The data sets are gathered and accumulated from valid sources. These guys are scientists from Cornell University. They have put this paper through peer reviews and they have other publications. Now, if we look at the scientific reports, we can see that there's a lot of different information. That's just the overload of this video. I'm not going to go through it. Now I've been kind of doing this really fast, but we didn't even go over, who this company was, Climate Feedback. Well, I've already dug that stuff. And here, just for what a peer review is, it's articles written by experts and are reviewed by several other experts. And where in that paper they said, well, there's only one other expert who validated the science. So, but yet at the bottom of the article here, we see all the other scientists here who've actually took part in this. And through this different Cambridge University Press, United Kingdom, we see all these different references to their work. And you see that they've pulled their own research and work down here, and many other sources. And they list right here through their source of where they're getting their data sets, the IPCC report. So read this and don't just dismiss it. You might not like the information. It might not be, completely, relevant to the other facts that might be out there, but it's an argument. And it's an argument that has two sides. And when we have fact-checking companies and that are being aggregated in our social media feeds, then we're not seeing both sides of the argument. We're only getting one. We're being led to only one side of the argument, which is bias and is completely unfair and unrelenting. And that's why I wanted to show you this video. Again, if you do some research, we could go to this climatefeedback.org and see that they're one of 3 websites under this science feedback umbrella, fact checks media coverage on climate change specifically. So anybody who says anything negative about climate change, these people are on it. These people are going to discredit it, dismiss it, because they think that their science is sound. We can see that this is run by what's called the Knight Foundation, which you can review that here, down here. They had run in with the IFCN, the International Fact Checking Network. They were on review last September because they thought something off. We're getting called out for making fake claims. Again, you can see that the Knight Foundation is run by one of the publishers from the New York Times, which has been proven time and time again to aggregate false or misleading information. There's a lot of information based around this company if you do the research on them. One of Facebook's main aggregates. So if they're fact checking, they're only fact checking against these people, nobody else. Nobody else that has any science or any types of information that could have the other side of the argument. They're not putting out 2 sides to an argument. They're only putting one side out. And that's my point here. These fact checkers are only going to show you one side of the coin because they want to mislead you into thinking something's false when it very well could be, but it most likely isn't. And that's my point here. And you can see here, Google climate feedback and read about them, do some research on them, see who they are, see who they come from. Use the methods that I've taught you, book, and do a rabbit trail on these people because we kind of went down one today, and just go and research these people and decide for yourself what you see as fact. Use the research and weigh the information, determine what you believe is the truth. That's what's important, not what they believe. You don't have to align with the consensus. Science is not a consensus. Science is based on fact. And if there are facts that prove the other side of the argument, well, we have to weigh those into account because not doing so is just dishonest to ourselves. So that's all I got for you guys today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's a little long, but I hope it helps you out in understanding and opening up a couple new perspectives. Beware of these online fact checkers. Don't just blindly trust something because it says fact check on it. Okay. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great day.